keeping Memphis sound alive is Laddie Hutcherson. My man, Laddie. Guillotines.
So good to be here
What
with
was
you.
that other group that you had?
The Sabres was
The Sabres.
in high school, yeah.
That preceded the Guillotines, didn't it?
Yep.
Laddie, boy, you were in a historic group called the Guillotines out of Memphis back in the day. I remember it coming. What was that club over in North Memphis, over on Jackson Avenue?
So we were just talking about it in this a year ago, remember, the Roaring 60s.
The Roaring 60s. I'd come over there and catch you guys, and you were the talk of the town, boy.
Well, George, I tell you what, all we did the Roaring 60s too, and what you did with us on TV, and started the ball rolling. Next thing I know, we were in Hollywood. It was hardly like any time at all. I was thinking about it
you
today.
Guys moved pretty quick. We're going to come back to that in a sec.
Okay.
But Ladd, tell us about the history of Laddie Hutcherson with the Guillotines and the Sabres and all.
Well, I started playing guitar when I was about 13 years old. My sister picked a guitar for me that Luther Perkins picked out at OK Hawk Piano Company, and then I put the band together, the Sabres, with Kenny Irwin on drums and a couple other people, and it molded into with Joe Arnold on saxophone, Gerald Smith on bass, Johnny Jackson sang, and we played we had a nice run of attention here and put out some records, and in fact, Roland James did 3 records on us. Stan Kessler did our first one, and so we had some guys in with
that.
that.
Sabres break up. Then how do you go over to the Guillotines? How did the Guillotine thing happen?
When the Sabres broke up, I went out kind of like guitar slinging, just looking for gigs.
Yeah.
And Joe Davis hired me. He had a group called the Memphis All-Stars, 7-piece band with the Avantis singing group.
Wow.
And he was doing college circuit. And so I went to work with Joe, and Joe had a seniority thing way of paying. If the longer you stayed with him, the more money you made, and which is fine. I mean, and we put the groups together, and we did some marquee gigs also with Don Nix, and then we played up in Murray State one night. On the way back, we were in a bad wreck, and Gerald Smith, the bass player, got hurt really bad. So what we did was hire Lewis Paul to come, and he and I alternated on guitar and bass, and so we began to work some tunes up together and do things like that, and start playing around and going places and sitting in for free anywhere we could.
Right.
And then Gary Reams heard us and hired us as the house act there at the Roaring 60s.
Yeah.
And but we didn't have a record deal at the time, and that's why we hadn't talked to you before we did. But we said, hey, we got to be on George's show, because the Sabres were on George's. Everybody was on George's show if you're in Memphis.
Right.
And when we started getting on your show, we started really getting some response.
Wow, that's
because we'd go in the studio over to American Studios and cut whatever we were going to play on your show.
Yeah.
Before records and everything.
Yeah.
And that was George.
Then you were hot. Fast forward, a guy named Jerry Williams, a friend of all of ours, picks you up. You guys get on the road, Route 66 to Hollywood, California, the Red Velvet Club. The people from Shindig come and see you. Phil Spector comes in and says, you guys are pretty doggone good. Takes you out to his house, and Phil Spector almost signed you, didn't he?
Well, let me tell you what happened there. The Righteous Brothers, were regulars in there, and we backed them up on the weekends. Every time Lewis Paul sang, they would just go. So they brought Phil Spector in to see us one night. And he hears Lewis, and we said, you got an original song. We played him an arrangement, no arrangement about it, I don't believe. It was just chords and vocals. Yeah. And he said, okay, I want you guys to come to my house tomorrow, and we're going to arrange it. Next day, we're at Phil Spector's mansion up in the Hollywood Hills. He comes bounding down the steps here along the wall, comes gorilla house shoes on. And he comes in and he says, I got this song, we arranged the vocals. He said, tomorrow I want you guys to come to Gold Star, and we're going to record a record.
He got involved with a lawsuit or something and held it up, didn't he?
Well, actually what we did, he was gone for a while, and we recorded it on Hanna-Barbera because we didn't want to wait for him to come back or something. It was a mix-up. I'm
going to tell you, folks, I was out in Hollywood when it was happening. There were 3 hot groups in L.A. There were the Byrds, the Loving Spoonful, and the Memphis Guillotines. You guys were red hot. Laddie, some guy has put a compilation together of the Guillotines and the Sabres stuff, and he comes out of Germany, and it's called Breakaway Records. This is nice. If you guys want to pick it up on YouTube or somewhere, I'm sure can direct you. Ladd, you're back in town for a while. I know you've been living in Florida.
Yeah, well, I'm in Arkansas now. I got an in-home studio, and I'm doing all original stuff. For the first time in my life, I got a chance to do stuff and control it myself, and in partnership with a songwriter, and we're doing other stuff.
Some product. Will you come back?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
GK, so
Very
great to be
historic
here.
guy. He's a legend himself. The Guillotines was the group. He was the singer and the guitar player. Or
Guitar and bass, we alternated.
Yeah, you altered around. You, Joe Davis, and Louis Paul. What a group, the Guillotines. I'm GK. It's Memphis Sound.